Is joining us now on the show is Wade Phillips. Wade, how are you?
Well, I'm doing all right. Hope everybody's safe there. We're trying to stay safe here, of course.
Well, we're doing our best to just give people some fun football talk to focus on Wade
There you
because
go.
there's no other sports. I have to start
That's right.
because it is a thing I bring up on the show all the time that I grew up in Buffalo and I was in my teenage years of loving football while you were the defensive coordinator and head coach of the Bills. So I have to say two things to you. First, I still have my Flutie Flakes, and second, it was a forward pass. It was definitely a forward pass.
Both those things I agree with. I have my Flutie Flex still too, and yeah, but that's the way it went. So
Well, it is Buffalo, so I grew up getting used to those things. My first sports memory ever, which ages me exactly, is wide right. So it wasn't worse than that. But
oh yeah,
wait, you had some amazing years in Buffalo, though, and the Doug Flutie thing is one of the best sports memories I have of him running the ball in against Jacksonville, and the playoff game, and just against Miami. He throws a long ball to Eric Moulds, and then the whole quarterback controversy thing. It was fun times to be a Buffalo football fan then. But the reason that you're on is because you have written a book, and the book is called "Son of Bum: Lessons My Dad Taught Me About Football and Life." And you wrote it with my friend Vic Carucci, which is awesome because he's one of the best people and best football writers in the industry. And I want to know, Wade, what inspired you to decide to write a book about your relationship with your dad, Bum Phillips?
well, after we won the Super Bowl in Denver, they were saying, well, man, Wade's a great coach and this and that, that kind of thing. And I thought, well, the greatest coach I know is my dad, and most of what I've done is because of him or through him. So I wanted everybody to know him. I wanted to honor him basically to write a book, and so Vic and I got together.
Well, one of the coolest things in your career, I would imagine, is being able to work on the same staff, in New Orleans for a number of years with your dad. Can you talk about some of the lessons that you took away from him as a coach that you applied in your very long and very successful coaching career?
Yeah, I've started with him. Actually, I was 27 years old when I started in the league with him with the Houston Oilers,
Hmm.
and so I got 5 years there with him, and then we went to New Orleans. We were 5 more years there, so it couldn't be better than that. To work with your dad. He coached me in high school. He coached me in college. Uh, he's I worked for him for 10 years. He's my hero. So, all that put together was really fun to be with. And I just want people to know about him. Some people have heard about him. Some people, see some of the sayings he says that still kind of live on. And so that's really why I wanted to do the book.
Yeah, and he's famous for those sayings that he had, and of course you've had a few notable quotes yourself. But what I think of with you, Wade, is these great players that you coached along the way. I mean, Reggie White, Bruce Smith is one of my all-time favorites. You got 17 sacks out of Bryce Pop one year. Vaughn
Yeah.
Miller. I mean, all these great legends. And it seems like you always found a way to put them in a position to succeed. Did that come from your dad, that ability to sort of take someone's skill set and design your scheme to fit perfectly for them?
Yeah, that's really what he believed in, and I've tried to carry out is, hey, if you got a great player, then you got to utilize him, and do the things that he does best, not what your scheme says. So we've adjusted to the players we've had, and certainly when you get a great pass rusher. Well, when I was with the Rams, when I went to the Rams, they said, well, you got Aaron Donald, and what are you going to do with him? Because he's been playing a 4-3, and now you're going to put him in a 3-4. Well, he was Defensive Player of the Year 2 years in a row, and he had 20 sacks, set the all-time record for most sacks of any. So you got to let them play their game. You got to find a way in your scheme to not over scheme, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah. Did you develop that along the way? Like, was there a point where you sort of had a player? Maybe I know you had Ricky Jackson when you were in New Orleans, and he's a
Yeah,
heck of a pass rusher.
right.
and where it sort of started to click for you, because an incredible amount of experience by the time you get to the Broncos and you win the Super Bowl, or when you're in the Super Bowl with the Rams. You've worked with so many great players, but I wonder when it was that you really started to hone that craft. I would imagine it was working with your dad.
It was, and I was coaching the defensive line 1 year there, and I had Curly Culp, who was in the Hall of Fame, nose guard, and Elvin Bethea, who was in the Hall of Fame. And then the next year, I coached the linebackers, and Robert Brazil just went in the Hall of Fame. So I was coaching those guys, and everything I'd tell them to do, they could do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought I was a heck of a coach, And then when we went to New Orleans and they'd only won one game and didn't have many players, I realized there was a difference, and you had to utilize whatever your guys could do, and not all of them could do what those three Hall of Famers could do.
One thing that, and just as I was going back through your history and your dad's history, one thing I forgot was how many coaches were also the general manager back then. In the 70s, your dad's the GM of the Oilers, and then with the Saints as well. I wonder what that was like to be. I mean, I think Belichick still does it, right? Is he the only coach left in the league that's still doing both? But I wonder what that was like for him to have to both evaluate the players and then coach them, and make tough decisions with who's getting old and who you love as a coach. I can imagine that created kind of a lot of tension at times.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was the general manager and the head coach. Bill O'Brien is now, as a matter of fact.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. But now he always had somebody that did the contracts, because he didn't want to get into a situation where, you weren't giving the player the money he wanted, and then he gets mad at the coach instead of the coach and general manager. So I thought he did a good job with that. But he had a good feel for personnel. So, we traded for Earl Campbell, which, really turned everything around with the Oilers. And he let everybody, all the coaches and all the scouts evaluated all the positions. In other words, I didn't just evaluate defense; I evaluated players on offense. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty interesting the way he did it. We got a good feel for players that way, or at least he did.
So there's another couple of things I wanted to ask you about, but I wonder if you have like a top 3 or a top 2 favorite Bum Phillips quotes, because if you go to his Wikipedia page, you can find a whole list of classics. Yeah. And, I guess I'm jealous of the old football reporters like Vic Carucci, who've covered the NFL back in the day with the personalities. But I wonder if you have a couple of favorites.
Yeah, I do. And of course they're in the book, but my all-time favorite is, 1 year our strength and conditioning guys that give the test for the players before the season started they usually do so many 40-yard dashes and see what kind of shape they're in. Well, 1 year they decided that they were going to have the players run the mile to see what kind of shape they're in. Well, Earl Campbell, he had 34-inch thighs, so he really wasn't a miler. And so he makes about half a mile, and he starts cramping up, and he, walks off the track. And of course, the media is just like they are now. They all run up to Bum and say, "Bum, what are you going to do? Earl Campbell didn't make the mile." He said, "Well, hell, if it's third and a mile, we won't give it to him." He said, "But we'll give it to him the rest of the time," which we did.
Yes, yeah, you certainly did. And I was just watching the other day, some Earl Campbell highlights showed up on Twitter because it was his birthday. And
oh yeah, his birthday, yeah, you bet.
Would not have wanted to try and tackle Earl Campbell. The book again is Son of Bum: Lessons My Dad Taught Me About Football and Life. Wade, I wanted to ask you about working with Gary Kubiak. He's the offensive coordinator here. You worked with him in Houston. I believe he was your backup quarterback in Denver as well. So you've known Gary for a really long time. Tell me something about Gary Kubiak that I wouldn't know about his personality, him as a coach, him as a teacher, because he's had a really positive impact on the Vikings here.
Well, he won a Super Bowl at Denver. So
of course. Yeah, of course. That's right. Obvious. Yes.
I mean, he's a great coach, great person. I think anybody that's around him probably knows him because, but he's a real good leader too, and when he played, he was a backup quarterback, but he was the leader. You could tell he had a lot of leadership qualities. And then when he got into coaching, he had really excelled at that. And I was lucky to coach for him with Denver and Houston. So, and at Houston, he won the division for the first time that franchise ever won the division and won a playoff game. 2 years in a row he did that. And then of course he won the Super Bowl Denver. So I just can't say enough good things. He knows offense. He will run the ball, which some of those quarterback or offensive gurus are pass only guys.
Mm-hmm.
But he'll run the football, and he's been a good influence on them already. I know that, and he does a great job. Even before he got to be head coach at Denver, he did a great job at Baltimore as the offensive coordinator. So you got a great one there.
Yeah, that's right. Joe Flacco had one of his best seasons when he was playing for Gary. Before I let you go, Wade, because I know you got a lot of interviews to do, what's the plan? What's the Wade Phillips plan? Are you just going to be tweeting these days? Which, by the way, thank you for unblocking me. There was clearly a mistake there, and I was blocked. Someone convinced you to unblock me, and I appreciate that. I know that everyone on the show wanted me to bring that up with you. But what's the plan? You're just going to be a writer now?
No, I'm hoping to get back in. I definitely qualify for any senior position, so like senior assistant or something like that. So, I didn't get a coordinator's job this year. And I was actually out the year before we won the Super Bowl to Denver.
Mm-hmm.
That Gary and Elway hired me. So I don't want to stay out again, but it may happen. We'll see. But consultant or I just think I can help people win. The last 5 years. We won 57 games, so it's not all me, obviously, but I think I can help.
Yeah, not too bad, Wade. Well, you've had success everywhere you went, and certainly was a interesting era. The time you were in Buffalo, for sure, and always had a great deal of respect for your work. So really an honor to speak with you, and I wish you the best of luck with the book, man.
Well, same here. Thanks a lot. Good interview.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Save that, Jonathan. All right. Take care, Wade.
All right.